Project Zomboid has an incredibly steep learning curve, and despite this, it's one of the most thrilling and engaging survival games on the market. Now, before I give you any advice on what we should be doing, I need to ask you, did you do the tutorial? If not, get to it. It will teach you the basics of sneaking, as well as a few combat tips. So, now you've done the tutorial, and you're familiar with the basics of movement, the main focus today will be turning you from a starting out survivor into a legend of the apocalypse. Now that we're back on the main menu, we're going to select Solo, then Custom Sandbox today. Before the settings, we have to select where we're going to live. For beginners, I would suggest a location like Rosewood. It features a smaller population with many useful buildings that help new players as well as seasoned players like myself who have played the game for years survive better. So it has a fire station which can provide you with good melee weapons such as hatchets, fire axes and crowbars. The hatchets and fire axes are multi-purpose tools, allowing you to collect wood and hack down Zeds, as well as a police station for getting yourself armed to the teeth with guns if you prefer a loud and shooty playstyle. Just remember that this noise is going to draw the dead in. There are also some noteworthy locations like the bookstore and high school for collecting books. These books allow you to level up your skills a little bit faster by giving you a multiplier when you've read them. I would also mention the gas station 2 to the north for collecting gas early game. After the power has gone out, you will need a generator for this, which we'll cover in the next video. Now you've got the sandbox options menu. Now this offers you the opportunity to tweak the game as much or as little as you like. A few changes I would recommend making for a new starter is to look at tweaking your start time to 7 AM or 5 AM. This is not only to give yourself a little bit extra daylight, but that's because during the first 9 days of surviving, there are plenty of TV shows that are shown that can help you boost your skills up to level 3. You can start earlier than these times to get the first fishing show, however do bear in mind that your character is going to need to sleep much earlier as a result. Next up is the zombie settings. Now I recommend looking at each of these and seeing what works for you, because each time you die early on, I would suggest starting a new world and tweaking these settings until you get comfortable. And once you start feeling good with how the zombies feel and you've lived a good while, start looking at either increasing the amount of zombies or how smart they are. Next up, this bit here is for people using build 42 only, so skip ahead 20 seconds if you're on build 41. I would also suggest here that you tweak your planting growing seasons and turn them off early on, as well as modifying the farming speed to about 2.5 from 1, just so that you get a little bit more of a reward from farming and agriculture. Now we're all back together, let's move on to occupation and traits. Here you can customize your character with some traits that will help you, as well as some that are going to bring in negative effects. A few professions that I would suggest taking as a new player will be as follows. Carpenter. It gives you a leg up with short blunt weapons like hammers and iron pipes, while also improving your carpentry and maintenance skills. In build 42, this also gives you +1 carving and +1 masonry, and it's at the very low cost of only 7 trait points, leaving you with 1 left over. But if carpenter doesn't appeal to you, then I would also suggest burglar. This occupation gives you the unique skill to hotwire cars without leveling up your mechanics and electrical skill, which in the early game will offer you a ton more mobility and options later down the line. It is worth bearing in mind though, because of this, burglar is much more costly, putting you at -6 trait points. This does mean that you're going to have to take a negative trait. So this first one ultimately depends on whether you prefer to use guns or melee weapons. If you use guns, take this trait. Fear of blood, which makes you panic and get anxious when you're covered in zombie blood. So what this means is when you're covered in blood, over time your character gets anxious, whether it's zombie or animal. You need to keep clean, and if you don't keep clean, you're going to end up depressed and anxious all the time, which really affects your gameplay. For 5 points, this doesn't seem very worthwhile, so what I would suggest instead for 8 points is thin-skinned, as you shouldn't be getting yourself in a situation where you're vulnerable enough to be getting hit. What it does do is when you are scratched or lacerated, it increases the chance of this infecting you, as well as it makes it more likely that trees are going to scratch you as you walk through them. But for 8 points, this is incredibly worthwhile. I would also suggest you take slow healer, as this only really affects you when you get serious injuries like fractures and deep wounds. This causes the injuries to last longer and be more severe, which at present doesn't really mean that much, and you shouldn't be in situations where you're fracturing or breaking bones like car crashes or jumping from high buildings, because ultimately if you're doing these things to yourself, you should just be taking better care of your character. Which brings me to my next trait, weak stomach. This increases your chances of getting foodborne illnesses by 200%. However, if you aren't eating raw, rotten or burnt food, this shouldn't be an issue. Just cook your food correctly in the oven until the little green bar is full. Once it's full, it's going to tell you how long it is till it's burnt. Bam, once you see this, take it out the oven. I would also suggest taking prone to illness, as this should only affect you if you're actively doing things that are going to make you ill, such as sitting outside in freezing weather or the rain. While sometimes these things are unavoidable, as long as you take care of yourself and wrap up warm, this trait is not going to cause any fuss. Some negative traits that I would suggest avoiding altogether until you're experienced is any that affect your senses, such as hard of hearing, deaf, or short-sighted. These massively hinder your character's perception. What I would also suggest avoiding is anything that hinders your character's physical performance early on, such as unfit, puny, or weak. These strength modifying ones mean that when you hit zombies, you're doing significantly less damage. Here's where the fun begins. Positive traits. Depending on the playstyle you aim to go for, this is going to vary massively, but what I would suggest you take early on is stout and fit. These combined are going to cost you 12 points, and it'll give you a huge leg up early on by giving you +2 fitness and +2 strength. This means your endurance is higher and you can carry more weight, and as previously mentioned, your weapons are now going to have more of an impact when you're swinging. Outside of all the other options that you have, my other suggestion for a new player would be baseball player, which gives you +1 long blunt, because assuming you took the carpenter profession, you now have 0 trait points left to spend. So everything that's given us a plus to our skills now, for example long blunt, will now in the bottom right say +75%. This means that you learn the skill 75% faster and rewarded with 75% more XP than you would be without +1 to long blunt. If you took burglar, you're sitting at a minus trait score now, which means that you're going to need to take a few more negative traits or alter some of your positive ones. Have a read through and work out what's best for you. Personally, I would take another negative trait such as hearty appetite. This means that your character gets hungry at 150% faster, which really, when you're playing with standard settings, won't change your gameplay very much at all. Now that we're done with traits and occupation, finally you can customize your character as you wish. The only thing I would suggest you do is make sure you wear jeans, a vest, t-shirt, and shirt. That way you've got as many layers of protection as you can possibly get early on. And don't forget your shoes. With all of that said, you're finally here in the world. Rosewood isn't a huge location, and my suggestion would be to familiarize yourself with the starting location. Check the wardrobes in the bedrooms, check the washrooms and the cupboards inside them for items like bags and weapons to arm yourself with, and go to your kitchen and work out what food items you have. Don't panic either though, because zombies aren't going to spawn in your starting area. They'll generally spawn only about 20 tiles away, which is about as far as your neighbor's house. And if you are playing on Build 42, make sure to check around your starting house and see if there was a basement, because there may be materials like nails and hammers in there that are very useful. Now that we've checked our house and got a few supplies, let's go turn the TV on and watch the Life and Living channel. Remember what I said early on about learning skills from TV shows? Well, these can really help improve your character early on and give you that additional leg up that you're going to need on some of the more frustrating to learn skills, as well as also offering you the chance to learn recipes that only can otherwise be learned from magazines or taking a relevant profession. So we've looted the house and we've watched a TV show. It might be worth working out how you're going to sleep and where you're going to sleep now. So for this, what I would suggest doing is picking up some of the solid furniture in your property. Now this is stuff that you can't walk through, so dining chairs don't count, but an armchair in your living room will count. So grab some tables, footstools, end tables, anything that doesn't require a hammer and screwdriver or carpentry skill to pick up, and then put them upstairs on your landing. If you don't own a 2-story building, take a look around and see if there are any immediately around you that don't have any Zeds, and then go there and occupy that house instead. While if you are in a bungalow, you can barricade the ground floor windows. It is much better to have that additional Y level by being on the first floor of your house, as zombies' visibility is generally a lot worse looking up Y levels. Now we've got a safe place to rest for night, we need to consider our next steps, and this may involve some fighting of zombies. So let's do an important setting that even pros and experienced players will be using to this day. On Build 41, open your options, and then it's under Display and then Cursor Category, and it is called Aim Outline. In Build 42, however, it is under User Interface. You'll have to scroll down past the camera settings, and then you'll have the cursor settings. You want to put a tick in Melee Target Outline. Now you've done this, you're set for combat. Early on, don't try to take more than 2 zombies at a time, and utilize what I like to call the aggressive juggle. This does work for larger groups of zombies, but for now we're going to focus on just 2 of them. If you're armed with a weapon, swing to hit one of the zombies. Now that you've hit him, focus on shoving the other one by pressing space rather than left click. This will give you the wriggle room to smack the first zombie again with your melee weapon. In the event one of the zombies fall over, start quickly trying to shove the other one to the ground while that one is laid down. If they both end up falling over, quickly run towards their heads and stomp down by pressing space. Now that we are thinking about combat, negative moodles are important too. These each affect combat slightly differently, Some will slower your combat speed, like being cold and depressed, but overall we're going to focus on the fact that we literally want to do our best to avoid having these while fighting. Some are going to be slightly unavoidable, like getting hungry, but just because you have a few doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight, it just means you should be trying to fight a little smarter. And to fight smarter, this means using things like fences or windows to your advantage. After all, when zombies climb, they're going to be a lot less elegant than ourselves. They tend to fall flat on their face, and when they're looking up at you, they are practically begging you to curb stomp them. Just be careful to not do this with too many zombies around, as they may try lunge and trip you over. Now, if you didn't change it in your game settings, you can utilize an online map. There are two variations to this map online. There's the Build 41 map, which you should be using if you're playing Build 41, and of course the new larger Build 42 map. This one is much bigger and has a lot of areas that have changed from Build 41, so depending which one you're playing, you need to be using the relevant map, or you may try visit areas and you'll find that they either don't exist or look really different. I will leave a link in the description to both of these maps so that you don't have to go searching online for them too. Just open the description up and they'll be in there. If you do end up getting your hands on a gun from a police station, remember that they are loud, and if you're playing Build 41, you'll need to farm up XP by using a weapon like a shotgun, as aiming works totally different on this build and is purely chance based. For those of you playing Build 42, I suggest using the shotgun to grind aiming still. However, you can also utilize a different strategy that requires using fences. As I did suggest before, the same way that you would curb stomp them when they climb over a fence, you can aim your gun at their head and fire. This won't always be an instant kill, but it has a very high chance to be. So again, just remember that guns are going to be really noisy, and if you're shooting too often, you might just be ringing the dinner bell instead of leveling your aiming. So be aware of where you are when you choose to shoot and when you choose to shoot. Finally, if you've gone burglar or you've been lucky enough to get your hands on a car key, you're probably wondering, how do I start the car? If you hold V, it's going to bring up a radio menu. If you're hot wiring the car, press the key option and this will attempt to hotwire the car. If you have a key, you can select this, or you can press the keyhole at the bottom of the UI, and then that will put the key in the ignition. From here you can press W and the engine will attempt to start up. Now that you have a car, you might be thinking, this is going to be great, I could just run zombies over now and stay safe. Well yeah, you could do, just bear in mind that each part of the car that you use to hit a zombie is going to get damaged. Hitting them with the trunk reduces storage space, and while hitting them with the front typically means that you're not going to have an engine to drive the car with. So ultimately, I do suggest avoiding hitting zombies with a car that you want to keep, and then having a backup for luring zombies away from areas and hitting them with. For now though guys, that's all we're going to cover in this video. I'll do some more coverage on in-depth combat techniques, as well as survival locations and how to effectively loot areas while making it as safe as possible, as well as doing some coverage on mid to late game survival stuff. This will be in future videos too. But ultimately, I hope you guys have enjoyed the introduction to the tutorial series. If you did, like and subscribe to keep in the loop and get new tips. Until next time, bye for now.